We're here, and as a result, biological reality doesn't exist. Well, clearly, this very, very idiotic ideology is causing havoc. Just today, Piers, there's another tape from a school in Scotland where some poor boy is having to explain to his teacher that there's only two biological sexes and that the gender woo-woo stuff is nonsense. And yet again, it's the student having to educate the teacher because the teacher has been indoctrinated into stupidity.
Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you are feeling good. Today we are here again with another video from Piers Morgan and Douglas Murray titled, "What is Going On?" Piers Morgan reacts to children identifying as animal in schools. Wow, this is really interesting. Let's check it out. Go.
Well, joining me now is the veteran LGBT activist and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell, political journalist Ava Santina, and by the best-selling author and conservative commentator Douglas Murray. Well, Douglas, you're safely over there in the United States, so let me start with you before the fun starts here. This stuff reads like a joke, but it's really not funny when you get into the weeds of it. This is limitless self-identity gone bonkers.
Yeah, it's the very stupid results of a very stupid ideology being rolled out by very stupid people. Basically, everything has come unstuck in recent years by the ever-expanding alphabet acronym people, where the fight for gay rights and minority sexual rights turned into this demand, this claim that there was no such thing as biological sex. As Peter Tatchell and others well know, the argument for gay rights was won by saying, we're just like the rest of you. It was also won by saying, you know, we just want to live and let live. Yet the gender ideologues have done something totally different. They've said, you don't have the right to have your own say in this. We are right, and you have to agree with us. They say, we're here, and instead of saying we're here, we're queer, and just get used to it, it's we're here, and as a result, biological reality doesn't exist. Well, clearly, this very, very idiotic ideology is causing havoc. Just today, Piers, there's another tape from a school in Scotland where some poor boy is having to explain to his teacher that there's only two biological sexes and that the gender woo-woo stuff is nonsense. And yet again, it's the student having to educate the teacher because the teacher has been indoctrinated into stupidity due to the gender ideologues.
OK, Ava, you're laughing. Why?
It's just quite amusing, really. I mean, we're talking about children that are 12 and 13. I mean, when I was at school, I had a girl who identified as a horse, but not in this sort of like problematic way that we're now labelling it. She didn't actually think she was a horse. She was just quite strange and walked around and, you know...
But nobody at the school then, no teachers would have tolerated that in the way that this is now having to be tolerated.
No teacher would have tolerated bullying of that child. And that's what this teacher in Sussex has done. They've said it's not acceptable for boys in that class to take the mickey out of someone who's obviously clearly just a child and they're exploring their imagination.
Who says they're a cat?
Yes, but... Piers, they're 12.
And he's actually interfering with the lessons by talking in cat language, including meowing, and if people don't go along with this, refusing to cooperate.
Yes.
That is not just having a bit of fun being a cat. That is actually assuming the identity of an animal that this person is not, and then insisting everybody else conform to it. That is madness.
That's not what's happening. What's happening is there's a child who's slightly more imaginative than their peers, and they are acting out this sort of fallacy, and that's fine. But to make it about trans, this is where it gets dangerous, OK? The Telegraph...
Oh, it's very damaging to trans people. I agree.
Right, OK.
I agree with that.
The reason it's most damaging, the Telegraph have been reporting this, it's up 400% in the last couple of years, them reporting trans issues. I don't understand why they've got this weird obsession with going into
Let me explain why.
No, it's quite gross.
Let me explain why. When you have in women's sport 6'4" biological males destroying biological females at elite sport level in swimming pools, on racetracks, in other sports, that's when it becomes a full frontal assault on women's rights to fairness and equality. Yeah. And when you include them going into dressing rooms and so on and mixing with biological females, then there's a safety issue. When you have, as we had in Scotland, a male rapist identifying at his trial as a woman to get put into a woman's prison and being sent there by the female boss of Scotland at the time, who's now obviously in her own troubles. That is why this is happening. Kids are watching all this stuff, and as kids do, they want a piece of the action.
No, Piers, don't be ridiculous. There is nothing, there's no similarity between a child wanting to be a cat when they're 12 years old and someone competing in the Olympics.
Oh, there is.
There is
Peter,
no comparison.
Peter, you and I have had a lot of civilised conversations about all this, right? And I want to continue that. I don't think that the trans community gets helped at all by any of this, right? But I don't think it's the media obsessing. I think what you're seeing is, as the trans community get ever more active and populous, if you like, for want of a better phrase, and their activists get more aggressive, when they go to battle on things like women's sport, they're losing everyone and they're piling mockery onto the trans community.
If we can go back to the Telegraph article,
yeah,
it's quite mischievous. Out of the, I don't know, million or more pupils in our schools, they come up with 5 examples. 5 examples out of a million. Now, that's wrong. I agree it's wrong. But, as Ava says, the kids are just acting out fantasies. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be Robin Hood.
But that's fine. That's fine. But the schools should not be tolerating it.
But the schools are not.
And teachers should not be saying, if you believe that women have vaginas and men have penises, you have to leave the school. That is complete nonsense.
No.
Right?
In this particular case, the Telegraph cited this handful of examples. They were by teachers, individual teachers. They were not school policy. And in at least one case, the school disowned the teacher and the policy and said that it wouldn't happen again.
But what about this case in Rye College?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are some examples of excesses. But on the basis of those exceptions, you can't make a generalised attack upon the school system and suggest that all our kids are being propagandised in this way, because it's simply not
when you hear
happening.
that teacher, I think, to bring Douglas back in, when you hear that teacher, there's clear evidence of what we've all been fearing has been going on, which is a teacher caught on tape literally spewing nonsensical gender ideology propaganda.
But one teacher?
Yes,
only one teacher.
One
out
teacher,
of tens of thousands.
Well, hang on, one teacher caught on tape. Right, there have been many other instances of this being reported, but no one's actually had it on tape. It's a bit like, I would liken it to the Partygate scandal, when we finally got a video of the people having what was clearly a party. There have been lots of rumours about it. So now we have a teacher clearly on tape doing this
But
stuff.
it's not official school policy.
If I may,
Schools across the country are
Well,
not,
she's still, to my knowledge,
this.
she is still working at that school. Douglas.
If I may, first of all, Ava rather unfortunately misspoke earlier when she said that the schoolgirl in question was acting out a fallacy. I think you meant a fantasy. But actually, she is acting out a fallacy.
Thanks ever so
fallacy.
much. But do you know what I find fascinating?
She was right with fallacy.
Do you know what's fascinating about Douglas?
Has been propagated. A fallacy which has been propagated by gender ideologues and is doing profound damage to gay people, among others, in our society, as well as women.
Like
and let me explain very
explain
very quickly why. I can't quite hear you, but I can hear you muttering something. Let me quickly explain why. A poll that just got published in the United States showed that among the general population, support for gay marriage has been starting to decline in the last year. Why is that? It's because the arguments that actually brought about liberal rights for all minorities in the last few decades have started to get turned on their head and turned against people. What is the source of that? It is the gender ideology movement. What is the tripwire for the general public? It is children. It is people learning that their children are being taught nonsensical things. It is being seen by the wider public, most of whom are heterosexual and don't need to identify as cis or anything else. It is being seen from that vantage point as the LGBTQIA+ movement losing control of itself. And so a backlash is starting. And the backlash is coming because people are lying to children and are using children for medical experiments. There's nothing funny about that. There's nothing that should cause levity in that. It should be treated by adults seriously.
OK,
No,
Ava?
So, Douglas, it's really important, actually, all of that point that you've just brought up, it's very on brand for you because, you know, you like to stoke fear. You've actually made a career out of it. I'll take you back to your book, The Strange Death of Europe, and you made a big fright. You know, you frightened the entire public about your thoughts on Europe, and we ended up in Brexit. You weren't the sole contributor to that, but you were a big
Can we
voice
stick
in
on to
that.
the
I will.
may
And then, you know,
say so
now
very
we're talking
quickly.
about LGBTQ,
If I may say so
and you're
very
creating...
quickly,
Hang on,
Piers.
you spoke. I'm speaking.
No,
I'm speaking.
I'll
You spoke.
reply.
This is, I mean...
And I'll reply.
Hello. I haven't
Let
finished.
Ava speak, please,
Now,
Douglas.
back on the trans issue, when you're talking about LGBTQ, what you've just done there is basically say that the whole of America, who have historically had a problem with gay marriage, are now turning on it because a couple of children in a classroom in Sussex want to be a cat. If you can't see the ridiculousness in that argument, I can't help you.
The bigger issue
first of
is
all, I must
there is no
respond
such
to
thing
Ava,
as gender
Piers.
ideology. We
I
all
must
have
respond
gender
to
identities. You identify as a man, and I fully respect you.
Well, no, hang on. I don't identify as a man. I was born a biological male.
Yes.
That's where this whole thing
Piers, you need to let me come
goes
in.
rogue. I'll bring you back in, Douglas, in one second. That's where the whole debate goes rogue. You were born a biological male. You were born a biological female. Douglas, biological male. This is just a fact. Right?
No.
Once you start saying there are hundreds of genders and you can identify as anything you want, you're going to end up with kids at school going, I'm a horse, and you've got to treat me like a horse.
Piers, you're confusing two things.
No, I'm not.
Sex and gender.
I'm not.
I
because
accept
they are being conflated.
biological sex is one thing which I totally accept, and so do 99% of the people in the LGBT plus community. Gender is something different. Gender identity is how you see yourself.
And do you believe it's limitless?
No, I don't believe it's limited.
What's the limit?
Well, there is basically male and female and intersex, but there are people who have different gender identities.
No, but how many genders are there?
Well, there is no fixed number.
So what's the limit?
I don't see a particular limit.
There's no limit. So when you said there's no, you said there is a limit. Now you admit there's no limit.
Sorry.
Well,
there is male and female
is
identity.
there a limit or not to
There's
the number of genders?
Identity.
No, that's sex. But on gender, is there a limit to number of genders?
Well, there are some people who are asexual. That's an identity.
No, there are
some
the BBC.
People...
The BBC has put in education videos. There are 100+ genders.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
So what is the limit? What's the number?
Well, I'm not going to specify a particular number, but it's very small.
But where do you draw the line?
Well, I draw the line based on science and evidence. And we know that there is a thing called intersex, where people are born with a mixture of both.
But that is literally what it says
both,
on. That's what it says on the tin. That is intersex.
Yeah.
People are born with chromosomes from both, right? That is a medical condition.
Yeah.
That's inarguable, right? We're talking about gender.
But
Douglas,
trans identity is also a biological fact.
I know, but once
rooted in brain structures and processes.
I understand it, but once
as the new science shows.
But once you get into 100 genders, people can
we're
literally...
not debating 100 genders.
Well, actually, the BBC has taught kids that. This is back to Douglas's point about affecting the brains of impressionable young kids.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the BBC if they're saying 100+ genders.
OK, Douglas.
Very quickly, I don't know, Ava, anything about your career. I don't know if you have one. But you did try to imply that you knew something about mine, and you just showed you know nothing about it, because actually my 2017 bestseller, The Strange Death of Europe, was not about the EU. So you should learn at some point to read more than the title of the book before commenting upon it.
It was about migration.
Let me very quickly...
And how rude are you? How rude are you?
Very quickly,
You've built a career out of fear-mongering, and you're now importing those evangelical American ideas onto UK television.
You haven't even built a career, have you? You haven't even built a career.
What are you talking about? I'm on the same panel as you, Hun, and we're getting the same...
Do you know what? I'm going to wrap it up by saying you've both got wonderful careers, or you wouldn't be on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Before I let you go, Peter, though, I want a quick reaction. Elton John today reacted to the Philip Schofield scandal and said that he believed it was totally homophobic, that if it had been a man having a relationship at work with a 20-year-old woman, there would be no scandal. What's your response to that?
I think there's a whiff of homophobia. I wouldn't say total homophobia, but there's a whiff, because we know that when big celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, Peter Stringfellow, Elvis Presley and so on, when they had relationships with young women much, much younger, there was tut-tutting, but there wasn't the kind of witch-hunting atmosphere that Philip Schofield has experienced. Now, I'm saying that as someone who says that, his own private life should be his own private life unless he's harmed someone else or committed a criminal offence. Otherwise, it's for him...
40% of all marriages used to begin at the workplace, and historically with a man in a higher position at work. That's how people used to meet and fall in love. It would be the boss, the secretary and so on. That's not going to happen anymore, is it? I mean, well, the Schofield template now is you cannot actually really have any relationships at work. And my only response to that would be, OK, how are people going to meet their partners for life, actually? It's an interesting question socially. If 40% of marriages began at work and work relationships become taboo, where does that leave society?
Online, though, isn't it, you know?
Huh?
Gen Z now, it's all online. We don't talk to each other.
There you go.
Properly, you know?
Well, there you go.
The only thing we should be concerned about, was a crime committed? Was anyone harmed? We don't have any evidence of either in the case of...
No, we don't at the moment, unless the other man concerned comes out and contradicts Philip Schofield's story. There is no crime.
Until then, the man is innocent.
Yeah.
Innocent until proven guilty.
I don't disagree. Peter, we reached a point of agreement. Always a good place to end. Ava, congratulations on your stunning career, which has brought you to the desk of Piers Morgan Uncensored. Douglas, always a joy over there in New York. Great to see you.
Wow. What an interesting debate. Just by the title, what is going on? Piers Morgan reacts to children identifying as animals in schools. And we have another heading here. Classroom identity crisis. Pupils are reportedly identifying as horse, cat, and dog. Wow. This is becoming interesting. You can tell that the world we are right now is not how it used to be. We are now in a very dark age, dark world. Training up a child right now as the world is, believe me, is very, very difficult. Even when you instill the right moral value in the life of the child at home, when the child goes out of the house and goes into the society or and goes to a school, the child can easily be influenced by what is happening in the society. So right now, I believe the way the world is right now, bringing up a child is something that's really very difficult. Even being a woman right now in the world we are right now is very difficult. Even being a man right now in the world we are right now is very difficult because people are stopping to accept the biological reality because they feel they can identify with whatever they want to identify with. I don't have a problem with that. But right now, they are influencing the children that it's not even up to 18, it's not even up to 15, it's not even up to 20 to make their own decision. And we all understand that children can easily be influenced by what they see. You see a lot of this people trying to promote their identity. They do that on social media. They do that even in our TV. They do that openly, and the children we have right now, they tend to be attached to the social media. They tend to be attached to the TV, seeing all those things about gender identity. You can identify as whatever you want to identify with, can easily influence our kids. And I believe our parents at home should do well to restrict their children from watching some certain programs, programs. Parents should try to restrict their children. I believe this is what we are seeing in this debate. The child identifying himself as a cat. I believe the child is taking a decision like this because of what the child must have seen, maybe probably on TV, on social media, or on some certain platform. I believe that's the reason why the child is behaving in such manner. That's the reason why the child wants to identify as something as a cat. I don't see any reason why a child will come up with such mindset without being influenced. So I believe right now, bringing up a child in the society we are right now is really, really very difficult. It's really very difficult. Even when you try your possible best to bring the child up, even in the way of the Lord, to bring the child up in the right way, to instill the right moral values in the life of the child. And at the end of the day, the child leaving home to school, try to mingle with friends and, at the end of the day, the child can easily be influenced by the environment in which the child finds him or herself. So I believe we are now in a very dark world where being a woman is very difficult, being a man is very difficult. Even bringing up a child right now is really very difficult because the child can easily be influenced by the society, can easily be influenced by the thing that is going on in the society right now. And we are seeing in this video the teacher that's supposed to be educating the students, and here is the student educating the teacher, and the teacher is picking offense by what the student said. So this is one of the reasons why I'm saying we are now in a very dark world. A lot of things are changing, and if we don't take care and we don't fight against those things, 10 years from now, it's just going to be a norm. So I believe we should address certain issues like this. It's a child identifying as a cat or identifying as a dog or identifying as whatever. It's the teacher's job to put the child in the right track, to educate the child and, try to reason with the child and make the child understand that that there are only two sexes. Either you are a male or you are a female. Gender, there are only two gender. Either you are a male or you are a female. It's the teacher's job to educate the child, not the other way around. And I believe right now, a lot of parents right now, they are in fears because they are sending their kids, they are sending their children out there to learn, but they don't know what the school is teaching their children. Because a lot of parents right now will be afraid sending their kids to school, because if their kids are going to be indoctrinated into stupidity, indoctrinated into stupid ideology, at the end of the day, the child will end up becoming wayward in the society. The child will end up thinking in the wrong way, in the wrong direction because of what the child have been taught. So I believe the teachers should stick to teaching the kids what they have in the scheme of work, what they have in their biology textbook, instead of the teacher teaching the kids or teaching the children worship, teaching the kids or the children our own ideology, which I believe is totally wrong. If you have been given a scheme of work and you have been given a textbook to follow up the textbook, you are supposed to teach the students what is in the textbook. You are supposed to teach the students what is in their biology textbook, what is in their physics textbook, instead of them teaching the students your own ideology. And I believe if a student is identifying as a cat, as a dog, the teacher is supposed to bring the student back to track. Because right now, the kids is not yet matured enough to make certain decisions. So if the kid is going off track, it's the teacher's duty to bring the kids to order and be able to educate the kids based on the reality, instead of you educating the kid based on your own ideology, which I believe is totally unacceptable. And I believe a lot of policy should be set in place to be able to, address certain issues like this. I believe right now, the world we are right now, the society we are right now, you see a lot of men identifying as a woman, a lot of women identifying as a man. Right now, you see a lot of people also identifying as animals, and all those things can easily influence the kids. Because even when you try to instill the right moral values in your children, when they go out there and all these things are happening, they can easily be influenced. And I believe the school should be a place where the students the school should be a place whereby the right moral value are instilled in students, are instilled in our children, instead of you teaching the children, teaching the students your own ideology. I believe as a teacher, you should stick to what they have in the scheme of work, stick to what is in the biology textbook, which you have been paid to do, instead of you indoctrinating the children, which I believe that is totally unacceptable. And I believe in situations like this, I believe policies should be set in place whereby teachers are monitored, whereby teachers are also disciplined if something like this happen. Because I believe such teachers should not be allowed to teach children, because they'll end up indoctrinating the children to believe on their own ideology instead of believing on biology reality, which I believe is totally unacceptable. Wow. I've really learned a lot just listening to Douglas Murray, listening to Piers Morgan, listening to every one of the speaker. And I would also like to hear your comments. Keep the conversation rolling. Don't forget, click on the subscribe button, click on the like button. Do have a nice day.